Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome, everybody, to another fabulous episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the main man, King Karl Bryan, for the main show after the pre-show. More on that after the show. How's that for confusing the heck out of everybody? Karl, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, buddy. What's happening, man? What's going on, Road Dog?
Just living my best life, as my wife keeps telling me, but that's about it. Yourself?
A little bit of the same. Enjoying a little bit of decent weather here, bud, before it gets cold out there.
It's so nice to have that foot of snow from last week gone. I'm not going to lie to you, bud. Holy smokes.
Oh.
That was a little premature, but I could go in a lot of different directions right there. So why don't we dive right into the questions, because this next one is fabulous. I am going to edit it for my own entertainment value. So there you are. If you were to start a business, Karl, aside from a hand modeling business, what would you start? Because we all know that like modeling is definitely out of your wheelhouse. I'm figuring you might pull off a hand model. First off, how do you feel about your hands? Do you feel that you can pull that off?
There's no question. Who's the famous hand model? What's the was it George on Seinfeld? Is that right? Am I right there?
Yeah, well, it was a Seinfeld episode, wasn't it? And then I was also the one with the man hands. Remember that episode?
Oh yeah, the chick. Yeah. Oh my God. Anyway, yes. There you go, Road Dog. That's a good way to start. So, what the question is? What if I were to start a business? What would I get into?
Yeah. Aside from modeling, that is not an option for you. If you have to start a legit business, what would it be?
What would I do? There's a few. I think again, I would encourage you to be thinking of the process. I mean, I'd look for something that I enjoy, first of all, but don't get confused with doing what you love, because doing what you love as a business is a great way to start hating what you used to love. Okay. But you're better off to do something that you enjoy, right? I played hockey for years. I used to own a hockey rink. Kind of just made sense, right? But rather than do what you love, you've got to fall in love with what you do, fall in love with the results, fall in love with the marketing, fall in love with the clients, fall in love with the retention, fall in love with growing the pie versus just your little piece, etc. So I'd probably do something I enjoy. I would also look at, very importantly, a high unit of sale. Like if you think about a company and how everybody wants to get to $1 million, right? Well, if you have $100,000 unit of sale, you need to make 10 sales all year to hit your goal. And then if you have a $10,000 unit of sale, you've got to make what? 100 sales, right? You got to sell 100 units to hit $1 million. If you got a $1,000 unit of sale, you got to hit 1,000. If you got a $100 unit of sale, you got to hit 10,000. If you've got a $10 unit of sale, you got to make $100,000 sales. And of course, you got a dollar unit, you got to make $1 million. So I want you just to think about the different business models there. If you only had to make 10 sales and you hit $1 million, or you had to make 100,000 sales to hit your goal of $1 million, without knowing what it is, think of dispatch, think of logistics, think of the staffing, think of the hours. You know what I mean? So it's significantly more complex. So there is no doubt that important part of the business would be the unit of sale, most definitely. That's one thing we do with our clients. Again, we have coaches that come in and they're newbies and they'll charge $1,000 a month when they get going, but we'll quickly move them into the confidence to be able to charge, $2, $3, $4, $5 grand a month, right? Like $60,000 clients. You don't need to have many of them to do pretty well. Repeat, another thing, again, like I would never, you hear me a lot, I rail against, realtors and real estate. It's sexy and delusional. Everybody wants to go into it, but the reality is repeat business equals profit. So I would have to make sure that there's a back end to it. Again, I wouldn't, my templated example, I wouldn't sell dogs. I would sell dog food. In fact, I would sell dogs and dog food, but I would not sell dogs without the dog food. That's the back end. I wouldn't sell coffee machines without the coffee. Right? I wouldn't build swimming pools without servicing swimming pools. And that back end business is the one that you'd be able to sell for, millions of dollars one day. I think also what I'd look for is like how do I say it? Like we were just talking about in the pre-show, right? Like industries, like a lot of passion within the client base, right? So like, let's say you went into golf, right? Or you went into hockey. Like there's hockey players that are just, they got 3 pairs of skates, they got 7 sticks, the new stick comes out, new grip, new curve, new this, no that. They can't live without it. Supplements, Road Dog, you take a lot of supplements, right? You're right into, lifting weights. You know how crazy people are about that, including yourself, right? Like, and again, a personal trainer that doesn't sell supplements, just lost, totally lost. So anyway, so I would look for that rabid, coaching tends to have that, by the way. That's why, again, a lot of our guys, like we've got coaches, they'll become successful, and then we help them build teams of, 5 to 50 plus coaches underneath them. So lots of passion within the audience, right? Okay, you got to make sure you're solving a problem. This would, again, idea. Karl, will this idea work? Will this idea be profitable? Do you like this idea? Remember, it has to be problem solution. You got to start looking at, you got to look for problems and then solve them. And the bigger the problem, the more people that have the problem, the bigger and easier it is to market your company. And I just round that out like low end skill. I'm not going to go build a chiropractic clinic under any circumstances. I'm not going to go build well, actually, no, I take that back. That's a black and white statement to something that could become gray, but there would need to be some major circumstances to come in for me to go, like a business with architects, a dental office, whatever. So anything that requires 4 years of school, is going to be significantly less marketable or significantly less scalable. If I'm going to go into business, I want to know that it's going to be scalable, right? So that's what I'd say to that, Road Dog.
Well, now I've got Seinfeld in my head, so I'm thinking Vandelay Industries, Art Vandelay, right? Because you're talking about architects. Was that George's big thing? Do you ever have a thing like, what did you ever want to be?
That's right.
Was it an architect or was it a marine biologist? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a dolphin trainer. When I used to go to the bar, guys, we go to the bar and then we got some stupid story. I would always say I was a dolphin trainer at SeaWorld. and it worked. Like, you'd end up with a crowd.
Dude, you know what? And with your locks that you had, oh my God.
Yeah, the blonde locks, man. I had played the part, buddy.
Well, you haven't cut your hair yet, have you?
I have not. Shoot.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Very stylish.
I wasn't sure. I got your text on the weekend. I couldn't make it over, but you need to dye that stuff. Like, get that blonde again. Your wife would you're welcome, Tammy. You're welcome. Anyways, just to follow up on the last question, you talked about scalability. Like, what businesses do you think are the most scalable?
There needs to be a monster need. I can tell you that. Like, you better be solving. If you want to scale, you better be solving a big problem, right? Like, look at the biggest companies, like McDonald's as an example. Great. Like, again, everybody, McDonald's is not the most popular company in the world, but I got to tell you, if you look at mechanics and fundamentals, you will struggle to see a company that has done it better than McDonald's over a very long period of time. And then, by the way, what's problem do they solve? Like, so if you've ever been in a line and needed to grab lunch but only had 30 minutes for your lunch break, you'll know what problem McDonald's solves, right? And then, by the way, they created the drive-through. Think about that, Mom. If you've got 3 kids and you have to get them in and out of the car, just putting on the darn seatbelts, right, is a bit of a drama. So when you can go through the drive-through, call out your order, hand it to the kids, and then they can eat on the way home. Or whatever. Some parents don't want their kids eating in the car, by the way. But you get the idea how it solves a pretty huge problem. And then, like Subway as an example, they got going. And they solved the fast, what do we call it? Fast, healthy food, I guess. Of course, they made the mistake of hitching their ride to Jared. That's a story for another day. But anyways, so scalable. Another thing I've been talking about for years, and on this podcast, convenience. 2 words, both billion-dollar words. I'd encourage anybody listening, if you haven't written these down, write them down, just so you can constantly bring yourself back to it. But convenience and delivery. like pre-COVID, I used to, like there was a need for like non-real estate entities, but like more now than ever. Like just think of a barber shop that could come to you, park on your street. You get an Uber type app and boom, you run out, get your hair cut, right? Car detailing, boom, I've written a franchise system for a car detailing business, right? Which is mobile service based. Like if you had a restaurant, would you rather have a restaurant or a food truck? Okay, and clearly there's probably more opportunity to profit wildly in a restaurant, but the food truck, you got significantly less overhead, so you're going to be significantly more profitable. And I'll tell you, if I started a restaurant, which I would not, but I would definitely do restaurant and food truck combined. So that I think that when you talk scalability, like if you want to scale, think franchising. You have to bring other people in. So if you've got less risk and whatnot and less overhead, that's going to make it more scalable. But remember, the world does not need another hair salon, gas station, restaurant. So you got to be thinking along those lines. Like it might seem like, hang on, McDonald's and Subway scaled really well. Yeah, but look, these guys have, well and true. I don't know if they cornered the market, but they got it going. I tell you, it's harder than ever to get a restaurant up and do anything remotely similar to scaling. And I think with COVID, there's going to be some adjustments there as well. And definitely like a SaaS model, which is what we do. Like, if you don't know what SaaS is, software as a service, right? The issue that you're going to have is it takes money and plenty of it to get going. But if you really look at the bigger SaaS models or the bigger, I'll say online plays, that have been built over the last number of years, they also have, think of the two words, convenience delivery. Like think Airbnb, convenience delivery. Think Uber Eats. Think Salesforce, where your database just sits in the cloud, right? Like cloud-based computing. Remember, your emails used to sit where? On your computer. And now you can, your phone, somebody else's computer. You can be in another country, another city, be anywhere, and just log onto the internet, log into Gmail, and see your emails, right? Convenience delivery. Amazon, most definitely. Tinder for those single guys or gals looking for a date. Again, the convenience of that. So, yeah, scalable. It's funny, like pre-COVID, I would have recommended okay, so let's say that you're coaching a daycare as an example. One of the things I'd be encouraging you to encourage them to do is to, find a good location, build up the business, see if it's going to work, get a loyal client base. And then if you feel once you feel solid in the company, I would be finding a piece of real estate not too far from the location you have going successfully. I'd be buying that piece of real estate, building the business up on that real estate. I'd be selling the business, say 3 years time. I'd be selling the business, remaining the owner of the real estate. And now you've got a ready-made tenant for the next, decade, right? Like that's one of the things, that's a really profitable model. But then I got to tell you, COVID hits, and I don't know that I would 100% go away from that strategy. But I'm definitely, there's a bit of a spanner thrown into the works in terms of, whether I'd be, recommending that. But more and more, just think mobile. Mobile is coming thick and fast. And again, those same examples, like, what I say, Tinder, Amazon, and Uber Eats and Airbnb, et cetera, like they've all really got that mobile component to it. So mobile service based, I've always been like mobile service based. That's always been my wheelhouse. I've written franchise documentation, right, for a mobile service based company. If you're wondering what that's a landscaper, that's the carpet cleaning, that's the cleaning company, that's the window washing company, et cetera. So those are definitely scalable. And, franchises, and, when you go and you scale your company, like let's say you franchise it, like people go and buy a franchise and they want to get rich. And the reality is that a franchise is made up and created kind of with the scope of the person who buys it to make $100 grand a year, and say maybe 250 at the high end. But it's, you're never going to buy a franchise and then get rich, right? Like that's not the way it works. Even becoming a master franchise, which means you own like a territory, you put multiple folks into a, like say you buy the state of the state of Montana. Like that would be an example of like a master franchise, and then you would control that territory and then sell the franchises within it. But again, it's not designed to make you a multi-millionaire. I think that's important when, understanding your model and what you're creating. But the bottom line, and then franchising, when you talk about scalability, like again, you got to think problems and like, what are the challenges with that? I can tell you that people buy franchises and they're super happy for 1 to 2 years, right? Because it's like somebody holding your hand and getting you going. But at the end of 2 years, it's pretty common for the franchisee to be thinking, how the heck do I get out of this, right? Because there's always restrictions. Like, say I own a franchise and I want to market my business in my area. Well, I need to go to head office and get approval before I can do that. Well, at some stage, they definitely start to feel like they know their market and they know their clients a little bit better than the franchisor, which is probably, pretty straightforward. It's obvious that happens and it moves in that direction. So like when that does, they're like, well, I want to get the heck out of this. But the problem is if you signed a franchise document, you're probably a 5-year deal at a minimum. And then there's a 2-year non-compete, like as in, I buy a Subway franchise and I can't open up a sub shop, for the next 2 years, right? Well, that's part of what you sign away. So, and that's why really the way we've set up our system, we've really got, very similar to a franchise system for business coaches. But we do, anybody that works with us, you just need to give us 30 days notice to cancel. And I set that up many years ago and I insist on having it now. Why? Because it puts a lot of pressure on us. And people aren't happy, right? If they're not happy with us, we're not happy with them. Like we don't want them in our market, like, in our network, in our community, if they're not happy, you know what I mean? So it makes us lift our game naturally. And with that model, I've literally had hundreds of people pay our high-end fees for 5 years, many over a decade. But it's just interesting, they're completely different. Learning from problems and solutions, franchise world. That's what, we set it up for that reason. So bottom line, Road Dog, when thinking about scalable, these are some of the things that I'd be thinking about. Again, I'd be writing down those 2 words, convenience and delivery, very profitable words to move forward with, buddy. That's for sure.
So one of the things I always think of is continuity myself, right? Like you talk about it with the dog food versus selling the dogs and all that sort of stuff. I always think of like, what's most scalable. At the same time, it's like, well, what's the continuity program inside of the program or the whatever it is that you're selling? And because again, if you can scale that, then it's not always having to make the sale, but that's, you hit 100%. It bang on. Like how many people aren't selling that, aren't selling something like the pool chemicals, the hot tub chemicals, the whatever. Like, how are you not doing that? I just don't understand it. So
it's more common than uncommon. Yeah, I agree.
Which is
crazy. Like a subscription.
Now, with that, and by the way, subscription boxes, holy smokes, I think it's cratejoy.com, I think is the website. Dude, if you went there and you saw the amount of monthly boxes, like different, you name it, like it's there. It'll blow your mind, the amount of subscription boxes that are available. And it's like just looking through it, like you ever want some ideas? Holy smokes. Like there is a site that will just blow your mind with how creative people are on a monthly subscription box. But now, having said that, obviously something like that, Karl, is probably on the rise. But with COVID and everything, like the world's changed, right? Like when you look at sort of the next few years, what industries or jobs or like what do you see going away?
Well, I mean, stating the obvious, news, old school newspapers, magazines. When I say going away, it's not like next year they disappear. Like there's as many probably hard copy newspapers as there's ever been right now. But I will tell you that they're battling and they're looking for new ways to do revenue, right? Like again, a newspaper that's not doing consulting is crazy. I wouldn't want to sell you advertising and then not help you with what happens when somebody phones, right? So, but publishing, newspapers, magazines, and again, they're not necessarily going away, but they're moving to blogs and really like a hybrid kind of model. And cashiers just wave goodbye. Travel agents waving good. We've already seen it, happening, and it's only going to continue to trend in that way. But when you walk into like a manufacturing plant, like whoever's in there in the manufacturing plant working, doing the manual, put this here, go find that, like that's going to robots 100%. taxis with, self-driving cars, truck drivers. So industries, yeah, like industry slash, I guess that would be jobs. Those are going bye-bye, man, for sure.
Okay, so that's pretty Captain Obvious stuff right there, right? That's sort of like, you saying that your favorite type of music,
Yeah.
like pop boy bands are going to stay in style. Like, is there
Boys
anything
to men.
is, I always thought you're more of a New Kids or 98 Degrees kind of guy. Like if I
I
had to
love
just put it out there, I don't know, because you had, but anyways, is there any sort of like less like non-obvious industries that you can think of as well outside of the
non-obvious. Well, look, okay, so cars, I tell you, like the days of a family owning 3 cars are a memory. And then if you think, okay, now if you agree with me on that, and feel free to disagree, but I'd be amazed. But in 5 years, we'll all know, right? 5, 10 years. But so then the offshoot of that is like, car washes, totally different game than it once was. And again, this is something that, over time, it's not like they're going to disappear tomorrow. Gas stations on every corner. This will just not be the way of the future. I'll tell you one that I see, and I'm very interested, but college sports in the USA, which is, to say that there's, I don't know, like billions of dollars made. And by the way, they don't pay the players. If you really think about that, like if that ain't a great business to go into, I don't know what is. But the problem is that college is going bye-bye. And my personal opinion, and okay, so we live in Canada, right? So there's a league called the Canadian Hockey League, which is basically for 21, 22-year-old or 21-year-old and under. Okay, so there's the OHL, the WHL, doesn't matter. There's a number of different leagues set up from one side of the country to the other, and it's in the U.S. as well. Okay, but they basically compete, and you can either play in that league or you can play university hockey. But you can't, if you play in let's say the WHL, which is part of the CHL, you can't go. You become ineligible. Actually, no, hang on, that's junior. That's junior A. The bottom line is that you play in one or the other. Let's put it that way. Okay. And if you'll have a WHL career or a CHL career, and then you move on to university after that. What's relevant here is that I believe that somebody, and I'm amazed it hasn't happened already, but I guarantee it is coming. It's just a matter of when it does. There's going to be a league that's going to be created for guys that don't want to play college. And there's going to be like again, age appropriate, like say the age, it's going to be 23, 25, might be 21 as well, where guys will go out of high school and then play in this league. And it will be much, run just like, much like the CHL. And that, I believe, will be part of the straw that will break the camel's back for universities, because then they're not going to fund. If you look at a university, imagine what it costs to run that thing. And a lot of that money comes from sports. So that's by the way, I could be horrifically wrong, but in 5, 10 years, we're going to know exactly how right or wrong I am. But that is something, there's just no way that the college, spending, $100,000 to go to school, get a 4-year degree. It's just not happening. So outside, look, I think phone companies, I don't think, like, you really think about it, you need a phone number, right? You got Skype, you got WhatsApp, you got Facebook messaging, you got Zoom. These phone companies, I see some major shifts coming there. Exactly what that's going to look like, because again, we're not talking about a small, a small industry, but I just see that going away in a very real and tangible way. It's going to take some time, but if you really think about it, you don't need a phone number. A low end, I think high end restaurants are going to, will I don't know, they'll be the same. I think anything is going to be the same after a while. We do have short memories, by the way. So when I say nothing's going to be the same, there's going to be a different vibe around going to the restaurant in the future. But I think a low end restaurant, there'll be like a service, let's call it, Uber chef, for the sake of the argument. Like imagine mom and dad being able to just hang out in the comfort of their own home. Somebody comes in with the food, cooks, cleans, chucks it on the table, walks out, and they do, 2 to 3 shifts a night. I totally see a service like that going, and that is going to big time, the McDonald's drive-through, kind of see it, not replacing that, but that's kind of that's where I see it. So easy for mom and dad. Movie theaters. I don't know that I don't know. That probably should have gone into obvious. I don't know if I'd call that non-obvious, but movie theaters. Look, movie theaters were on rapid decline before COVID. Major trouble now. Cable TV. Like my daughter. I was watching a baseball game, and she's asking me, like, is that live? Right? She's 7 years old, right? I'm like, yeah, baby, this is actually happening now. Like, she just didn't. It was like, the look on her face. It was completely foreign to her, right? Obviously, YouTube, subscription services like Netflix, Disney, etc. Absolutely gonna crush it. Wallets, again, I think wallets, like, if you got like a clothing line of some type, I would not be making wallets because I don't see them. And again, this isn't tomorrow, but over time, phone cases will be replacing wallets for sure. I don't know if retailers to a large degree, I mean, Walmart are kind of fighting this right now, but it's almost like they're a showroom for Amazon or online, places online to buy. If you want to make a retailer work and you have a client that has a retail space, they've got to create an experience for the clients. What I mean by that, so if you have a hockey shop, I need to be able to come in and then actually use the sticks. You have a skateboard shop, you got to be able to, jump on my skateboard and ride it around the store like that. Those are kind of extreme examples, but you're going to have to give people an experience. Traditional journalists, I don't know, like, I think what's going to happen is journalism is going to become like these are going to be entrepreneurs in the future, and they're going to have a blog, and then they're going to, contribute to, other blogs and other, Inc. magazine and this kind of thing. And they're going to get themselves a following and be selling themselves, selling their material, selling their subscriptions, and selling advertising online. So again, I think that that's something getting majorly, like, you think of newspapers, like Bezos bought the Washington Post a while ago. Look, I've never spoken to Bezos, but I guarantee if I got into his head, he did not buy the Washington Post for money in any way, shape, or form. He did it for influence. The end, right? Like, I mean, I have a magazine. I've never sold a single ad. Actually, that's not entirely, but I do not have any, like, this month, I will not seek to make $1 at advertising. By the way, it's not necessarily a great idea. It's just the fact that we have other, there's a different play involved. And it's around influence more than it is about, how many ads can I sell? And by the way, I've spent about $300,000 building the bugger. But that being said, it's a long-term play, right? Yeah, politics. I just think one day in politics too, all the craziness going on around the world. You know how old Trump is? A 75-year-old guy schooled everybody on Twitter, right? I think that, like, there's a 30-year-old out there that is going to become president of the United States of America, or politicians, and they're going to be like business people more in the future. And I see, like, that is something that I see. I think if Trump's legacy to a large degree will be getting people that otherwise would have never looked at politics involved in politics. I totally see that. So, and I see somebody, rather than, like, I don't know, like, do we really want somebody 70, 80 years old running the country, or maybe a little bit younger? And I think that, online, I think the politics are in for a major, major shakeup over the next period of time. And I think that would be less than, I don't know that it's unobvious, but I don't think that's the way people are thinking about it, right? I think the next, president and whatnot will be an older guy. So that's what I'd say, man. There's some, I don't know, non-obvious, but those are some industries that I could imagine getting disrupted. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? There's a couple things you said there. One, it's funny, you talk about phones. Like, man, I was looking at, remember, like, in the day, you were always looking at your home phone long distance plans and all that sort of stuff. And for whatever reason, my home alarm is still tied to a landline, I've already put the call in because that's going to stop. But because I'm like, why the hell do I have a freaking landline? You know how much I pay for my landline? Like, unlimited calls, blah, 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 blah. Like, every month, 10 cents. 10 cents a month. Like, this used to be like $100 a month, right? So talk about things going away. I just find that interesting. But one thing that you said there really stood out to me, and that was, you're talking about retailers. So when you're talking to coaches, and I know this is kind of off the cuff here, right? I'm going off the board of the questions I'm going to ask you, but this is like when they're going out and looking for businesses to prospect, would you recommend more service-based type of businesses versus more of like a retail? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, you're asking possibly the wrong guy because I'm always been mobile for 30 years. I've been mobile service based. So, again, think of a consultant, right? Again, landscaper, like a carpet cleaning business. Again, most people go into hardwood floor. So again, when you see trends and whatnot, you got to watch that kind of thing. Again, car ownership, but definitely, service based. There's 10 times as many of them. And that's where I think if you can get, at the end of the day, what do you got to be able to do? Like if you get 20 clients at $2,000 a month, it's 480 grand a year for your coaching business, right? So there's so many more. And if you understand how to go help a service-based business, like if you help one, you help another, right? Like you hand me a mortgage broker, you hand me a realtor. The number one thing that I will do is help them with their follow-up, right? Because a good realtor, a good mortgage broker is a good salesperson. And that means that they're a dog's breakfast on the back end. So I help them cross those T's and dot those I's, and they do way better, right? So yeah, that's what I'd say to that. I'd be going service. But that being said, what's your passion? What's your expertise? Where's your experience? Go get 20 clients that you know how to help. That's what I do. Make it easy.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, listen, you talk about Bezos far too much, almost as much as Tom Brady. And the question that I have that came in here, what's the number one thing you've learned from studying Bezos?
The number one thing from Bezos, if you haven't read his letter to shareholders, they're a must read, but I've said that many times. He's been unwavering since day one, like on his long-term vision, and despite, you can imagine how many setbacks and like how many times he must have gone to bed just, questioning his sanity, right? And getting called Amazon scam and everything else. So just like thinking long term, that's would have to be the number one thing. When I say long term, like 10 years at a minimum, right? Like he has like little to no interest in profit whatsoever. And again, if you look at traditional companies, I mean, this is where they were just shaking their head for over a decade at him, going, what the heck is this guy doing? Is he ever going to run a profitable business, right? Like the only interest he has is long-term cash flow. And then like, well, Bezos, like the needle movers for Amazon are basically selection, price, and delivery, right? And then and now I think what you're going to be finding, in fact, I'm positive, but accuracy of delivery, it's like last mile delivery. Like imagine if you had a package coming or a delivery and they were able to say that they could give you like right now they give you like a 5-hour window at best. If they could give you like a 50, like a 30, like a 1-hour window, 30-minute window, imagine if you can get it down to a 5-minute window, how that would change everything. Think convenience and delivery, right? So those are the real needle movers. In fact, have you ever seen, I've talked about, what do I call it? The clock, right? Like when you're, like basically like a clock. It goes clockwise or it goes counterclockwise. And the challenge that you've got with a lot of businesses, like a coach as an example, once you get, let's just say 20 clients, you're maxed out. Once you get to 21, 25, 30, it starts going in the opposite direction, the wrong direction, right? So the clock starts kind of eating itself. So when you look at Amazon, and this is what I'm describing here as network effects, which again, I can't begin to tell you how powerful the concept that is. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, something that I'd be spending some time with if I were you, if you want to help, yourself and coaching the clients that you're coaching, take it up a notch. So if you kind of just picture 12, 3, 6, and 9. So if you kind of picture, so what's Amazon? So at 12 o'clock, they've got selection. Okay. So what he finds is the more selection he has, the more you can get, the more convenient it is, the more often you'll go to Amazon, right? And then at 3 o'clock, and again, picture a clock going around and then speeding up and expanding as it goes. And then think customer experience, right? So the better the customer experience, like what does he say? A raving fan doesn't send a support ticket, right? So one of the major KPIs at Amazon is how many support tickets do we get, right? Like we're doing that internally with us in like my company, right? It's like how many support tickets are we getting? And we just know that if there's too many support tickets, it's not clear enough, right? And we're not perfect by any stretch, but we're improving every day. And this is something that we're tracking at a super high level, right? So bottom line, customer experience. And then the better the selection, the better the customer experience. What's going to happen? You're going to come back more often. So at 6 o'clock, you've got traffic, right? So more people come into Amazon.com to buy everything under the sun nowadays. And then at 9 o'clock, they've got so what is it? It's more. So it's more sellers. Okay, so you've got that guy that says, "I'm not selling on Amazon. I'm not selling on Amazon. I'm not selling on Amazon." Damn, I got to sell on Amazon, and they get there, right? Well, what happens when you bring in more sellers? What was 12 o'clock? Selection now goes up, right? So you've got all kinds of people that have built multi-million-dollar businesses literally on the Amazon platform, right? Hugely powerful. So anyway, and then by the way, so then you're thinking, okay, well, wow, like that's pretty powerful, right? That's when selection, customer experience, traffic, and then more sellers. If you want to kind of, write that down as a clock so you can kind of look at it and try and absorb it. So then you go, okay, well, what does that look like for a coach? And depending upon your business and how many coaches you have underneath you, these might, the positioning of these might change, but hardly. So I would go like for us, new clients, okay, would be 12 o'clock. And then available time. Remember I said, so if I'm a coach, I've got 20 slots available. Once I go to 20, I'm not able to service my clients at that level. Or maybe maybe you're able to do 35 because you're working that much harder and you're that much more efficient, and yours is going to be more than somebody else's. Let's assume 20. Okay. And then you'd go one further. So now what will we be at? We've got 6 o'clock, and that's basically clients' wants and needs, right? So if you've got too many clients, you're not able to get to your clients quick enough, right? So all of a sudden the clients' wants and needs start going in the wrong direction. You got to keep it going in the right direction. And then 9 o'clock would be customer experience. That's the results of your clients and, them crushing it and sending in, like, what are they going to do when they have a great experience and they're killing it? Like if I'm a realtor and I'm working with you and we start to crush it and I've got a mortgage broker that sends me a lot of leads, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, you need to work with my mortgage broker because the same thing you did with my business, I want you to help her or him do with his, because the bigger he gets, the more referrals he's going to send my way. Okay, well, now you just got more clients, right? So, but when you think about it, once you get to 20, 25, 30 clients, if we assume 20 is max, that clock starts moving in the wrong direction. So this is where you got to make sure that you're building up a team of coaches, which is what we do with our high-end guys. But anyway, so that's fundamentally what I'm describing there is network effects. And again, very, very powerful concept. And I'm only just, brushing over top of the surface, but that is something that I'd encourage you to kind of go deeper with. But the bottom line, he's just long-term cash flow. Like, okay, so there's a coach listening and they're like, okay, well, what does that mean to me, right? Like, you're not Amazon, never going to be Amazon. Let's just say, okay, fair enough, right? An example of that, let's say that I'm $1,000 a month coach. If you were 100% fixated on long-term profit, something that you could do is you're signing up a new client, and again, you're $1,000 a month. You could do something like 200 month 1, 400 month 2, then 600, then 800, and then go to 997 in month 5. Or maybe you could do 333, 666, and then 997 in month 3 onwards. Or maybe you're $2,000 a month. You could do 500, 1,000, 1,500, 1997. Like, do you think you might? Because what happens as a coach, you run into people all the time. It's like they've got no money. We hear it all the time, right? Well, if you're willing to work with them for 5 months to get to your full fees, surely that would have to allow you to increase the number of people come in. And by the way, will you get taken advantage of? The answer is yes. Get used to it. But if you want to follow, an Amazon kind of model, and not be worried about profit short term, only be thinking about long term cash flow, that's an example of something you could do, right? And definitely like getting coaches underneath you. One of the things, because you will max out at roughly 20 clients, right? So this is where you got to make sure that you're building a team of coaches. I think I said earlier, we've got guys that work with us. Again, they've got 5 to 50. In fact, one of our guys just sent me an email over the weekend. I think he's at 75 coaches now, right? And when I met him, again, 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, he had 0, and now he's got 70 plus 75 coaches underneath him. You could see how that's a game changer. So, but the bottom line, thinking about that, Bezos, long-term cash flow. I think I just gave you what would be a really good example for your coaching business. If you're thinking along those lines, you might find that growing. And I'm going to assume that your goal is to legitimately, like, I'll speak to a coach all the time, Road Dog, and it's like, what's your goal? And they're like, I want to get to $1 million. And I'm like, okay, but it's just probably not happening, right? And when somebody thinks of getting to $1 million, they always think of Lead generation. Am I going to be able to generate enough lead? And, it's got to be social media or whatever it's going to be to bring in clients. The reality is that when you're growing a business like a business coaching company, there's three baskets. You got leads, basket number one, conversion basket number two, and then fulfillment number three. The one that will stop you from getting a seven-figure coaching business going by 100 miles is basket number three, and that's fulfillment. That's where all the time is, right? Generating leads, frankly, is easy. It takes some expertise and a little bit of trial and error, but the one that's going to stop you from growing is number three, all day long and twice on Sunday. So that's why you want to get a team of coaches underneath you, so that you don't have to do that retail coaching. You don't have to show up on Monday at 2:00 for an hour, right? Like that impedes your ability to grow at a really high level. So anyway, then actually might just do one thing also, Road Dog, like, okay, so you want to scale a company. We talked about that a little bit earlier as well. There's three words that I would write down. There's recruitment, there's training, and then there's development. Okay, so recruitment's obvious, clients and staff. Okay, training, you got to train your clients and you got to train your staff. That takes all the time. The recruitment takes the expertise. The training takes the time. And then the third word, development, takes all the money. Okay, so it's like in my world, where we got profit acceleration software that we've been building over a long period of time, hiring software engineers, just hired a new one. And we just built digital acceleration software, okay, which profit acceleration software, digital acceleration. You could imagine we have a lot of digital marketers that work with us, and a lot more in the future for sure. Having digital acceleration software, or going to a business owner and saying to them that you have digital acceleration software, look, is that going to help you get in the door? And I'd be amazed if not. But then one of the things that we train our guys is to become a full stack consultant. And instead of going in and being, pretending like Facebook ads is the solution to everything, helping them with the very important, like if you go into the software, there's 12 key areas that I would go with 100% certainty. If I was working with somebody for the first, 90 days, 6 months, I would basically go straight into those 12 areas and help them improve those 12 areas in a small incremental way. Right. So basically, that's what I'd say there, Road Dog. Those three words, if you're looking to scale, your client's looking to scale: recruitment, training, and then development. Training takes the time, development takes the money, and recruitment to a large degree takes the expertise. You got to expertise, sales ability. You got to be able to convince, you got to get somebody on the phone and then convince them to whip out their credit card or to, sign on the bottom line. That takes some influence. So there you go, Road Dog. That's my answer, bud.
Okay, real quick, on a follow-up before I close it out here. You mentioned scaling into it. Now, the saying, they got to pay attention, right? Like, what do you your thoughts there? Like, what I mean? Like, it's such a fine line, isn't it, dude? Like, really? I
had a conversation about this one over the weekend, like a lengthy one. And the answer is, you know what? If you want to follow, that's the wrong question. Let's put it that way, right? Long-term cash flow is what Bezos isn't asking himself. Bezos isn't sitting there. Here's the question. Is Bezos sitting there trying to make an extra 10 cents, $1, $10 on a product? Or is he trying to find a way to marginally decrease the price of the product? And the answer to that's obvious for everybody listening, right? So if you want to follow Bezos's lead, again, remember long-term cash flow. If he ran a coaching business, he would 100% do it the way that I'm describing, as opposed to, trying to make, pay to play, that sort of stuff. But there's some truth to that, Road Dog, right? Like when somebody whips out and, spends 25 grand with you, look, there's a debate to say they're paying a lot more attention than if they just pay a few hundred, right? That being said, if your business and your model and you take the training and then the development very, very seriously, there's a debate to say that that's a better place to spend your time. Build something that's they don't want to say no to. Build something. That's why we're constantly, like profit acceleration software. Like we're hiring, like new software engineers, and we're like, I'll hang up the phone. I'll hang up here from doing this, and I'm going to work on software today. Why? making it better and, more. At the end of the day, my job is to help a business coach make $100,000 a year, multiple hundreds of thousands a year, if that's what they want. And in some cases, they become unicorns and hit $1 million. Like, that's the job. So the software is not about making money. It's not how many people can we get to pay us. It's about helping somebody make $100,000 or, again, $300,000 a year using it. Like, that's what we put our time and effort into, not how much money we make. So you kind of follow me there, Road Dog? I totally get that, but I would challenge. The conversation I had on the weekend was right along these lines. And it was like, no, I get it. But and again, what do you want? My Kobe Bryant metaphor that I use all the time, right? Kobe Bryant knew what he wanted, so his decision-making became easy, right? So if you want to build a 7-figure coaching business and then saying that people got to pay to play and, they need to, pay all this money up front. And I'm not saying you don't profit wildly long-term, and Bezos and Amazon most certainly do that. They just don't do it on day one, right? They've got a plan. They're looking at bringing their clients and legitimately building long-term relationships with them. So that's what I would say. I would say the person asking that is asking the wrong question. But different goals provide different roadmaps, man. So,
yeah, and I was just going to say, if anything, it comes down to scalability, right? If you have the ability to scale, then discounting is, I think, a valuable, a sure thing to do. I would say, and give me your thoughts on this. It comes down to confidence. Like, there's nothing wrong with starting lower, and once you get something under your belt, that's when you just naturally start charging more, and you're not going to have a problem closing at that point because it's a confidence issue at that stage.
I've said this a zillion times, and I'll say it a zillion more. Introduce me to a coach with a lack of leads, and I'll introduce you to a coach with a lack of confidence. That's it, the end. And that's why, Road Dog, as you know, that's why we help our coaches that start crushing it. We help them build teams of coaches, right? Because again, it's like, okay, well, what's the goal? Okay, and then that number. Okay, well, in order to get there, you can't do all the one-to-one coaching because it becomes impossible. Because if you're on the phone building everybody else's business, you can't be on the phone and on the computer and everywhere else, generating clients and building your company. You can't be two places at one time, right? You've only got so much focus. So there you go. But that's a great question, Road Dog, and that's how I'd answer it. Make sure get those questions. Remember, it always starts two things, right? Uber built $150 billion or whatever the company's worth, $100 billion company very quickly with two questions: where are you at? Where do you want to go? Right? So the little red arrow, you are here. And then the other thing we have to go is, what do you want? Kobe Bryant wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time. So it was easy. I was chatting to a guy last week too. He's got a virtual call center doing this program together. And I'm like, look, what's the goal? And then he's, yeti. He could not clearly define his goal. That's for damn sure. And I just said, so what's the goal? And he wanted to build, the number one virtual call center in the world. That's what we kind of came around to, right? And I'm like, okay, if that's legitimately the goal, I want you to go back to the questions you asked me earlier and now tell me what the answer is. And he's like, oh my gosh, right? Like, when you clearly define what that looks like, it comes really easy. And then see, because there's some coaches listening, Road Dog, right? And they're semi-retired. Look, they don't want to dip into their retirement savings. They want to make $100,000 a year, right? And that's what they spend per year. And they want to travel around and they want to have a great life. Like they're at that phase of life where they want to, they just want to enjoy it and they want freedom. They want time freedom, right? Okay, that's perfect. Clearly define that. And we know exactly what you need to get there, right? And all this scalability and 2, 4, 6, 8, or 500, 1,000, 1,500, and then $2,000 a month might not make sense for that individual. I would dare say that it makes sense for everybody. It just makes it so much easier to get your clients on board. And then you start the relationship from a place of, look, this is a partnership big time. Like, I'm going to lose some money to get you going here. Like I'm in this thing to win this thing, right? So anyway, that's, oh, can you hear that? Can you hear that? Oh, jeez, there we go. So that's how I'd answer that one, buddy. Did you hear that just now?
No, I'm not sure. I thought you had a seniors moment.
Oh, no, my alarm started going off in my ear. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Anyways, okay, cool. So That's how I'd answer it, buddy. What do you think? You like?
All right, man. So close us out. What's one thing that we covered a lot today, but what's one thing that our listeners can do today from the podcast?
Write down these 2 words on a Post-it note, put it on your computer, and look at it every day. Convenience delivery. For your clients, for you, for everybody. Convenience delivery. And again, I go to a recording from 5 years ago where I said the exact same thing. From 2 years ago, said the same thing. You and I have said it on the podcast at different times. But convenience and delivery, all the the $1 billion plays and whatnot, you'll find that they are at the front of basically convenient. That's the foundation of their business is convenience delivery. So that's what I'd say to close us out, Shoots.
Beauty. Love it. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man on top of the hill, my boy King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show and all that, what is included with that, you aren't getting his delay emails. You just want to, get more information on how to build your coaching company. Visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast, please, please, please share with a fellow coach or someone you think might make a great coach, someone that's a great salesperson or just a highly motivated type. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, and the like give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. Well, that is all for another week, everybody. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody. Make it a great week.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra $1 on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.